Thank you for listening in. We will continue with our AI discussion, AI discussions that is happening in LinkedIn, outside of LinkedIn, and in family conversation and dinner, corporate environment over the lunch. And a lot of the corporations are concerned with the adoption of AI. And so, this is why this conversation could be appropriately named as adoption of AI strategies for enterprises, right? Because most of the enterprises that are interacting with consultants like ourselves, they are experimenting with AI, and they have already gone through the research stage. And as they're experimenting, some of the questions that are coming up is, the scalability and sustainability question, which have came up with cloud, with blockchain, with many other digital transformations that our organization had to go through. I mean, if you think about it, all the way back in 2000, people were talking about just developing websites, right? How to, capture a bigger market share using websites, and what are the threats and vulnerabilities in websites today? Those sustainable and scalable questions have been addressed over time. And this is the same thing will happen with AI. AI sustainability and scalability will be answered eventually. So as the enterprises are experimenting with the different uses of large language model, Chat GPT, what's a better large language model? What is that large language model service that's better than the other one? I really am seeing a thread where it feels like we're missing the full forest for a tree, because what's being marketed heavily and what's coming up in the hype cycle more and more of is just these text-based AI, which is a large language model. And large language model is one of the tree. I would say it's one of the core trees of the whole forest, where you have forest full of AI opportunities. So if you're experimenting at this point, I think this is a golden opportunity to kind of pivot back and say, let's step back a little and talk about what are we going to do with this large language model as part of the full suite of AI that we will need eventually, be it today, be it tomorrow, or be it 5 years from now. Whatever stage you are in, how does large language model benefit beyond just large language model, right? What's the full forest full of AI opportunities that we have, and how are we missing the full forest for a single tree, right? Experiencing AI at this point for a lot of the enterprises can be a mixed emotion and a mixed reaction, because a lot of the enterprises, as we speak to them, they have these questions, but beyond just the questions, from seeing other enterprises experiences, they're saying, well, it just creates text. It creates text, but it hits a ceiling right away. It hasn't been really lived up to its promise, right? It doesn't really do more than text. It doesn't do more than image. It doesn't do more than a video. And when I try to do knowledge management, which requires tons of complexity, they're hitting the ceilings, right? So enterprises that are going through research stage can learn from the people that are already experiencing with AI, and definitely everybody can go back and step back and say, how do we start experimenting rather than deploying this AI right off the bat? Whatever stage you are in as far as AI machine learning goes, the concerns of sustainability and scalability is coming up over and over. And if you think of AI as a full ecosystem, you really have to go back to experimenting again one more time, even though you have done your research or you have already deployed some AI models or AI tools in your enterprise. Um, Immediate success with AI is something that I want to start with, because if you want immediate success with AI, that's where I'm seeing a lot of the enterprises are falling short, because they want to see these AI work just like IT solution does work off the shelves. You take them off the shelves, you put it in your system or your enterprise's system, and then it runs very well, and you can start adjusting as you go. AI doesn't do that. AI has to really have to go through this growing pain of saying, now it's ready for uses by everybody in the enterprise, and everybody in the enterprise will feel the same way about this AI. AI is not necessarily something off the shelf and just plug it in. It has a growing pain that you have to incur. But as you can tell, the outcome that you get from an IT solutions, like something that is programmed, something that's very logical versus an AI, the outcomes are far superior and far better. So using the experiments of blockchain, experiments with website development, experimenting with IoT solutions and sensors all over the enterprises, these AIs will actually capture all of these previous pain points and some more. And that's the beauty of artificial intelligence, that we really have to look at the full ecosystem and say, where do I start? And if I start, can I pivot back? And can I pivot back to a starting point where I can start again without losing everything I already put into it? Right. So AI has lots of these benefits, and it's painful. It doesn't work on day one. It works differently on day 30, and it probably works much better in day 90. And hopefully by 365, it works as expected, if not better. Right. But they all come down to these scalable solutions and sustainable solutions. So if you are starting in a single point, that single point, you really have to address these questions of, is it sustainable? Right? If I spend 100,000 today, will it cost me a few more $1 million without really giving me anything back, return on investment? Right? How does that work? And if you have to scale it, say for example, you start in a single point, and that's what all you have been doing is just doing that one single AI solution and not necessarily taking advantage of the full ecosystem of AI. It's not scalable. It's just a single AI. It's a narrow AI. Some call it dumb AI, but it's just what it is. This AI has been trained to do just this piece. It doesn't really scale, and it doesn't work very well interoperably with other AI systems. So challenges are not as simple as they have become for us for IT solutions after say 10 years. But if you were to use last 10 years as an example, look at Tesla cars, right? These cars have been in the market for 10 plus years. The reason they're popular, the reason they can drive themselves very well, once they get on a highway, they can take the exits. They can actually drive you to your home without you touching the steering wheel, unless there's a supervision or human in the loop concept that needs to kick in. It can drive itself to your home 10 years later. But even 10 years ago, it was actually performing somewhat of a autopilot function, assistive driving. It was AI back then, and it's still AI today. But going back to that 30-day, 90-day, 365, is that it started off kind of as a child driving that car, and all of a sudden now it feels like a full-grown adult is driving that car 10 years later. So there's a growing pain with AI that industry and all the subject matter experts have to really become aware of and be understanding of how an AI has to be implemented and how it is different than the IT solutions that we are previously accustomed to. So I'm going to leave it at that. Don't want to jump in too far into it, but if you have more questions and concern on these topics, and you really want to start unpacking these capabilities that AI brings, and what are the SWOT analysis to it, right? How do you figure out the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats behind it? And how do you understand the quadrants of machine learning? So that way, if you're not a technical person, how would you comfortably communicate with a technical person who will develop these machine learning capabilities for you, these AI capabilities for you? We want to help you on that aspect. We want to help the techies and non-techies alike to really frame a good way to approach AI machine learning. So that way, when you ask questions and when you're writing requirements and you're framing those deployable qualities of AI that you need, you really have some good communication skill sets to communicate this requirement. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but feel free to reach out and we will continue the discussion on a later date. Thank you so much.